British man accused of recruiting and paying people to carry out arson attacks.
They live-streamed themselves, causing around £1 million worth of damage.
3 British men have been found guilty of an arson attack.
The investigation found that there were more arson attacks planned.
Just before midnight on the 20th of March 2024, a warehouse in Leighton in East London erupted into flames. The warehouse was destroyed, causing nearly £1 million worth of damage and placing the public at significant risk, such was the scale of the fire. What at first looked like senseless arson was soon uncovered to be an act of sabotage puppeteered by a hostile foreign power using young British men recruited on social media. The attack was ordered from Moscow by the Russian mercenary group, the Wagner Group, and carried out on British soil by a group of men lured in by Russian propaganda or simply greed. The investigation that ensued led to the first ever arrests, charges and convictions under the National Security Act, which came into force only weeks earlier. Initially, the arson was investigated by local officers, and a young, new detective recognised the link to Ukraine and informed counter-terrorism policing. This led to counter-terrorism detectives taking control of the case, and the evidence led to a suspected perpetrator, the Wagner Group. The first thing counter-terrorism detectives did was identify the car used in the attack. Using CCTV and number plate recognition, we were able to identify a red car leaving the scene and driving to the scene. Phone data also confirmed the details of the men in the car. From the beginning, we knew we weren't dealing with a criminally sophisticated gang. They actually recorded themselves setting the fire and live stream it to the man who had orchestrated it all, a drug dealer by the name of Dylan Earl. They also left physical evidence. While fleeing the scene, one dropped a large knife that had his DNA on it. Messages were recovered from their phones after arrest that later showed their panic, with one messaging, L9 left his Rambo at the scene. Dylan Earl was the first to be arrested. He was arrested in a B&Q car park in Leicestershire on the 10th of April 2024. Some 20 days after the incident. Analysis of his mobile phone revealed he had used the encrypted messaging app Telegram to get in contact with the Wagner Group. Detectives extracted 56 gigabytes of data from Earl's phone, including more than 5,000 instant messages, 50,000 images, 1,200 emails and 3,000 videos. Very quickly, we were able to use the information on the phone to prevent 2 further arson attacks in London. Messages recovered from his phone showed that reconnaissance had already been carried out at a restaurant and a wine bar in Mayfair. These were owned by a Russian dissident. The group also discussed using explosives to damage the buildings and also a potential kidnapping plot for this Russian businessman. Using these Telegram messages, we were able to work out exactly how he recruited his accomplices for the warehouse arson. The first was Earl's associate Jake Reeves, who then recruited his friend Mensa to carry out the arson. In turn, Mensa recruited friends Rose and Asmina. Detectives found evidence that Earl had discussed the plot to target the Mayfair businesses with another associate, Ashton Evidence. Dylan Earl, we now know, was tasked by the Wagner Group, a Russian state-sponsored organisation, to conduct this activity on behalf of the Russian state. So Dylan Earl was primarily motivated by money, but I know that he was particularly fascinated by the Russian military, and in some conversations even asked about joining the Russian military. And so when he identified the Wagner Group through Telegram, this struck a chord with him, and it appeared that whilst he was motivated by money, he also enjoyed the idea of talking to the Wagner Group and what he knew to be the Russian state. We were able to identify that communication. In this case, an individual that was going by the name PrivatBot was representing the Wagner Group, which, as I say, really is the Russian state, the Russian intelligence services. This was the first time anyone had been charged using the new National Security Act. Here in the United Kingdom, we're now seeing over 20% of counter-terrorism policing's demand coming from hostile state investigations. This goes to the very heart of our national security and our way of life. And so what you have here are a group of low-level criminals who have conducted some very serious offences, including sabotage and other plots to target other premises in central London and potentially a kidnap on behalf of a foreign state. Following a trial at the Old Bailey, the jury found Mensa, Rose and Asmina all guilty of aggravated arson, a very serious offence. Ashton Evans was found guilty of one offence of failing to disclose information about terrorist acts. Dylan Earle and Jake Reeves had already pleaded guilty to acting on behalf of a foreign power under the National Security Act. These individuals have now been convicted. We will hopefully see them go to prison for a very long time. But I would say to anyone tempted to engage with the Wagner Group, with any other country online that tasks them to conduct this sort of activity, you are taking significant risks. Counter-terrorism policing will be able to identify you, and we will place you in front of a court and disrupt your activity. What I would say to the public is be alert but not alarmed. If anyone has any concerns, please call the anti-terrorism hotline and we will respond to your information. We continue to work together with our partners internationally and our intelligence partners here in the United Kingdom to keep the country safe from threats from overseas.